Everybody ready for a dose of psychology?
Yeah.
So there is a very beautiful site called academia.edu. I became a member for that, and they keep on sending me various kinds of free PDF articles, right? And these are from reputed articles, Nature. They are from some of them are like their own articles, but this one was published in International Journal of Psychiatric Research, which is a decent enough article location. And this is by one Dr. Nader Bhutto, who is from Switzerland. So he did his medical education in Switzerland. He was a cardiologist and he came to United States. Um, so looks like Subhashni joined. Very good. We are happy family. So I don't see her talking yet. Hello, Subhashni, Vijay.
Hello.
Hello, Naru.
Yeah. Hello.
Good, good. So today's topic, I have my Annaya Venkatesh and of course Raj, and then my friend from Philadelphia, Chandar. So Chandar, all these people are my family members.
Oh, hi.
So it's like my
Hi,
family
everyone.
group.
Hi.
So today's topic is psychology. So I am reviewing one article from International Journal of Psychiatry Research. There is a website called academia.edu. If you register there, they'll keep on, once you start one or two searches, based on your search, they'll keep on sending you research articles. So this article is by Dr. Nader Bhutto. He's from Switzerland. Israel. And then he went to medical school in Italy. And then he came to United States. He spent a couple of months in Arizona Heart Hospital. And then he went to intensive cardiology unit in Rabin Medical Center back in Israel. And then his specialization is angioplasty and angiography, coronary angiography. And what he did was later on, he got attracted to this ancient Indian way of thinking around the soul and extrasensory perception. And then he got into holistic medicine. So he's saying that it should not cure just people by their medical condition, but more so by their regular condition. So I just started my video also on, in case people are okay with seeing my face. So after specializing in cardiology, he continued to seek knowledge to fill the gaps in conventional medicine. And then he established a discipline called seventh sense. Normally we say sixth sense, but he started something called seventh sense, an energetic method that tracks down emotional conflict and the energetic blocks that we all have. And then he talked about the unique method which opens the energetic block and washes away the body with flow of energy and vitality. And then he started this discipline called Unified Integrative Medicine. And then he started a global tour, go to Israel, Italy, Spain, Germany, Switzerland, where he talks to psychologists and all these other people. So again, based on my profile, this paper was sent to me. So this paper talks about cognitive research, cognition. We say recognition. Recognition means first you cognate and then you recognize something. So first you register it in your mind, and then you further base your thinking on that. So then let's jump to this paragraph called the need for spirituality in psychology. So despite the fact that caregivers are in agreement that spirituality plays an important part in medical care, conventional medicine has not addressed the mental, emotional, and spiritual needs of the individual. So conventional medicine has long recognized that patients and or caregivers' belief in effectiveness of particular treatment affects the outcome of the treatment. So if you believe that you are getting cured, you are getting cured. This is known as the placebo effect. So let's talk about the placebo effect. Placebo effect means the doctor will give you some real medicine and then some placebo medicine, saying that if you take this, it will really cure you. Psychologically, you are wired to get cured, and eventually you get cured. So considering conventional medicine's focus on biomechanical treatments, it has been unable to justify incorporating the placebo effects into the treatments, even though it is often used in practice, right? So placebo has had effect, but limited effect. So then comes the spirituality. Empirical research has validated that spirituality is a lifelong process that has effect on quality of life, health, healing, and illness. Lack of spirituality knowledge could thwart spiritual and psychological care. So this is what he's a cardiologist, and he's also saying that this is the way to go. So patients whose spiritual needs are not met may not be truly healed regardless of their physical condition at end of the treatment. So physically they may be healed, but psychologically there is some kind of a mental block. So we need to use this holistic treatment. That's what the psychiatrists are saying, to unblock, right? So health providers need to be spiritually educated so as to increase their awareness, knowledge of their own spirituality, as to enhance their client's spiritual care, better address their client's spiritual concern, and increase their spiritual well-being. So in order to do that, he now gets into the realm of spirituality, right? Yet patients may need spiritual comfort, which can be provided. An integrative understanding of healthcare appreciates the importance of meeting those spiritual needs. It's evident that humans are not merely biological machines, right? Because conventional medicine, what it does, it treats us like a machine. Okay, your back, there is a problem, we'll treat your spine. If your leg has a problem, we'll treat your ankle or your heel or foot. And then you have different doctors. Like I know I've been to a podiatrist, means that fellow only knows legs, right? And only he will deal from heel to ankle to toes. His whole life is only treating people's legs, because they treat this as a machine. They don't go look at the holistic, that human being is an interconnected entity. So what this doctor is saying is there are also spiritual beings who inevitably, in some sense, oriented towards the transcendent, whether defined as a universal principle, anima mundi, cosmos, God, or something that is simply greater than the individual alone, right? So spirituality may be defined as the complex and multidimensional part of human experience, which transcends all in the concrete world through cognitive, experiential, means experiences, behavioral, how we behave, religious, you know what it is, and philosophical aspects. So now treatment is moving along these 5 dimensions, right? So then he talks about the quantum nature of the soul. Although there is much consensus that life as we know involves some deeper animating force inherent in all living beings, there is no universal agreement on the nature, origin, and purpose of the soul. Right? People say, oh, why do we need a soul? Oh, there is a soul, okay, let it be there. They don't know what the origin is, where did the soul come from. So according to spiritual disciplines, spirit is essentially formless, intelligent energy. If you remember in one of my previous classes, I talked about the size of a soul. Size of a soul is 1/10,000, the tip of human hair. And so it is not in micrometers, it is in nanometers. Nanometer means 1 into 10 raised to minus 9. Micro is 1 into 10 raised to minus 6 of a meter, which is very, very small. So like cigarette smoke is in nanometers, right? So our soul size is also nanometer, right? So which has become individualized by splitting of God's energy, which when it animates the physical body, becomes a soul and expressed individuality, which is in many religious and philosophical systems. So philosophy and religion, they have been talking about the soul for millions of years. But now scientists are trying to integrate philosophy with spirituality. It denotes the inner essence of being, which comprises of locus of sapience, which is self-awareness, and metaphysical identity. Souls are usually described as immortal. Bhagavad Gita talks about it, right? Nayanam chindanti shastrani, nayanam dahati pavakaha, na kledayanti apo, nanu sochati martaha. Means you cannot cut a soul, you cannot burn a soul, you cannot divide a soul, you cannot wet a soul, you cannot dry a soul. Of course, drying and burning are synonymous. And then surviving death in an afterlife. So souls are immortal. And incorporeal means without bodily form. These are all high sounding things, but basically there is no body that is incorporeal. However, some are of the view that souls have a material component and have even attempted to establish the weight of the soul. But then soul is very, very light, right? I mean, the size itself is 1 into 10 raised to minus 9 meters, like this, like smoke, right? Can you give a weight of a smoke particle? Very, very small. Like even coronavirus is bigger than the soul. How do you know that coronavirus is bigger than the soul? Anybody can tell me?
You can probably see coronavirus under microscope, but soul you cannot.
That is one way to put at it, but there is even more basic thing.
has weight, I guess. Yeah, the virus has weight.
Yeah, even more fundamental. You're coming very close.
It has shape, form.
Yeah, shape, weight, all these attributes are there for the body.
Because
But the most important thing is the soul has to fit into coronavirus also. Each virus is a living entity. It has a soul. So the soul has to fit even coronavirus, right? Let me see if I can open that file, which I have the dimensions of the soul. So if I go here, if I say soul PPT, it should pull it up. I have like, hundreds of files. Because every week I give a class for the last 8 or 10 years. So I have hundreds of files literally on every topic. So the soul should fit the coronavirus, right? And then is the soul of a elephant a different size than soul of a giraffe, different than soul of a monkey?
It's probably the same.
It is the same. Yeah. Because soul is the soul, right? Sometimes we are in the body of a human being. Sometimes we are in the body of a amoeba. Sometimes in the body of coronavirus. Sometimes we are in the body of a flu, right? In this way, the soul is constant. The bodies are changing. So right now we are all in human bodies, but there are a few souls in the bacteria body right now. So I have some bacteria in my mouth right now. Some are beneficial, some are detrimental to my health. They are beneficial bacteria which are digesting our food, right? So the Christian perspective on soul is different than the Vedic perspective on the soul. So let me open that Christian perspective of the soul. Oh, it's using OpenOffice. I want to use PowerPoint. Open with PowerPoint. So Christian perspective on the soul is slightly different than the Vedic perspective of the soul, right? So the Christian perspective of soul is like this. Soul is the control tower. Then you have all these emotions, and then you have the body around it, right? And then Satan is trying to tempt you to go away from God. That is the Christian perspective. And there is one other Christian perspective which talks about spirit and soul being different, right? So there is a soul has a personality which has inferiority, insecurity, worry, doubts, fears. And spirit is more focused around salvation, turning attention to God. And of course, body is body, right? You have headache, migraine, blah, 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 all that. So this is a more simplified relationship. In the Christian perspective, soul has mind, emotions, and will, and spirit has intuition, conscience, and communion. In the Vedic perspective, soul and spirit are the same. They are not two separate things. They're not two separate things. And body is just a container. So it has no ability to think, feel, things like that. I cannot will to do something. I cannot feel anything with my body. Ultimately, these are the things that are doing the emotions, willing. This is just like a sensor. Body is just a sensor, right? So this is one other view. They say spirit is within the soul, one other biblical view, and then body is around. But Vedic perspective, spirit and soul are exactly the same. So they, again, these are all from a biblical viewpoint. So they talk about God consciousness. We also talk about God consciousness. So man spirit, one spirit with the Holy Spirit. They think of union with the Holy Spirit. But we don't think of union with the Holy Spirit. You will not go and become one with Lord Krishna. You will continuously, even after liberation, you go there and serve God. You will not be individual. I mean, you will be individual. You will not be, losing your individuality when you go meet God. You'll continue to serve them even after liberation. So, and again, these are different layers that people talk. This is integrating modern science with biblical concepts. So there is a feel gate, which is touch. There is a mouth gate, which is taste. Ear gate, which is hearing. Nose gate, which is smelling. Eye gate, which is sight. And then you have conscience, reasoning, imagination, emotions, choice. And then inner cycle is more reverence towards God, having faith, having hope, performing worship. So this is a different way to kind of get to that. So biblical picture is man is a three-part whole: spirit, soul, and body. So let me see how my search is doing, because I wanted to go find that. But somehow or the other I still did not find it. Maybe we will do for, let's review this one, proof of existence of the soul. So there are different theories of the soul. In the Western philosophy, the materialistic theory of the soul may be attributed to Aristotle. He differed from Plato, right? Plato was Aristotle's disciple, who claimed that the soul can exist apart from the body. Aristotle argued the soul is inseparable from the body and comprises whichever capacities are required for body to live, perceive, reason, and act. Later, the English philosopher Hobbes theorized that human reasoning, along with imagining, sensing, and deliberating about action, proceeds according to mechanistic principles like a machine. So he thought of body as a machine, and there are different components. He wrote, why may we not say that all automata, engines that move themselves from computer science, right, have artificial life? For what is the heart but a spring, and nerves are so many strings? So heart is a spring and nerves are strings, and joints are wheels. So different people. Hobbes had this mechanistic view. Aristotle had inseparability of soul from the body. Plato said soul and body are two distinct things. So the so-called Renaissance movement, which started about 550, 560 years ago in the European cities, was a break away from the religion, right? So initially, whatever the church said, people would listen. But then during the so-called Renaissance means reawakening. During Renaissance in the European cities, they said, no, we should question everything. And we should come to a point where we understand, dissect, and analyze everything. So from there on, church and state, church and science started to deviate. Prior to that, science and church were the same, right, in the Western things. And even in India, whatever the guru said, the disciple followed, right? In 20th century, we have Turing. In computer science, we use the term Turing's equation or the Turing test. Turing test is, can a computer do the same thing as a human being can? So what Turing did was he put a curtain around and he said, okay, you ask a question, computer will give you an answer. So somebody would read the computer and give you an answer loud. And then he said, was it a human being you gave the answer, or was it the computer that gave the answer? When you cannot distinguish between the two, then the computer is coming to the same thinking power as the human being, like that. So these are all, again, materialistic theories. And then there are chemical theories. There are physical theories, right? So soul is experienced as the living force or consciousness which gives the body life. As long as the living force remains in the body, life systems are experienced. If somebody dies, right, you touch them, you wake them up, they were not waking up because the soul is gone. All the chemicals are there. So this whole notion of chemical origin of the soul is wrong. The chemicals are still there, but the body is not moving because the soul has left the body. When they say he's gone, doctor says, right, he's gone. So who is gone? What is gone? The entire body, the mechanism of wheels and springs is still lying on the bed. Like Hobbes said, right? Hobbes was a philosopher. He said, heart is a spring and nerves are like, strings, and other body parts are wheels. But hey, all your springs and wheels and strings are there. So what happened to the person? The person is not responding when you wake him up. Something has left, the machinery stops working. The non-material soul has left, right? So soul is not material. Soul is something beyond matter. So that's the conclusion one needs to come to. Otherwise, we'll be in a confused state throughout our life. So we cannot see everything, perfectly. We have limited powers of seeing, limited powers of hearing. I cannot hear, for example, what's happening in Vancouver, British Columbia, in Canada. I can hear probably what's happening 20 meters away from my home, right? So we have limited sense of hearing, limited sense of seeing. So therefore, to think that with my senses I can understand the world is actually incorrect, right? We do not have the ability to understand the world with our limited senses. So therefore, we should take to some higher forces and power to teach us about these other things, right? It is possible to chemically analyze the body right before death, and after death determine if there is something is missing. One can measure the weight, the chemical composition of blood, the oxygen content with an oximeter. Whatever is missing can be injected into the body by doctors or chemists. Still, the body will not come back alive. The reason is that the body is more than simply a material machine. If it's only a machine, the missing chemicals or body parts could be replaced and it could come back alive. But that's not possible. There is more to the living body than mere chemicals and organs, right? So therefore, we need to come to the conclusion that we are not just chemicals, because this whole chemical evolution of life, and I gave a talk on that one also a few weeks ago. They have said that, yes, you can create life from chemicals, but that experiment was either bogus or it was very limited. Actually, it produced a lot of arsenic in that experiment, which is anti-life. And whatever little bacteria was left, that will also die, right? So it is not possible to create life from chemicals. Life comes from life. And also, we didn't come from monkeys. So we didn't come from Darwinian evolution. Because even today, monkeys and men and all the 8.4 million species are coexisting. So it is that soul is there in all 8.4 million species of life. It is not like suddenly the soul decided to forever forego the monkey body and come to human body. No, there are different hundreds of varieties of monkeys still available on the planet, right? None of them have transformed into human beings. So Darwinian theory somehow, how people believed at the time, I don't know, but now it is losing out of favor, right? So Darwinian theory is not correct, and chemical origin of life is also not correct. So the soul comes from somewhere else. And let's go back to Dr. Nadir's paper, right? Then he goes on to talk about quantum physics, right? As described by quantum physics in relation to particle wave duality. Anybody remember from their 12th class, what is particle wave duality? Who coined this term first? From your intermediate 12th class? A scientist called Schrodinger. It's called Schrodinger's equation. He said anything can be simultaneously a particle or wave. In some experiments, you perceive it as a particle, and in some experiments, you perceive it as a wave. So you can go to Bing or Google and look it up, Schrodinger's equation or Schrodinger's duality. So the soul can be identified with the physical body and take on its nature. According to the first axiom of quantum mechanics, every system can be described by a wave function or a quantum potential, right? Wave function is measurable. Quantum potential is a potential energy that is sitting there, right? So then there's a famous scientist called Bohm, Barry Bohm. He explained the concept of quantum potential to shed light on why and how quantum particles act under influence of quantum potential. So you need that potential energy for particles to move or even to stay still in one place, suspended. This leads to the notion of unbroken wholeness of the entire universe. And later on, I will talk about some experiments. Let's actually talk about it right now. So there is a scientist called Pribham who removed large areas of your cortex of the brain for some mental patients. And he didn't find any difference. People were able to still perform exactly normally, right? What happened? When some neurons are lost in your brain, the other neurons will connect again and continue to perform. So you're actually not losing anything. Even parts of your cortex, cerebral cortex, is cut out from your head, right? So Lashley, a different scientist, suggested that brain interference patterns could play a role in perception, but was unsure how these patterns were generated in the brain or how led to the brain function. So there is still a lot of things that are to be discovered yet, right? Science is very elementary so far. So this branch of neuroscience proposes the notion that human consciousness is formed by quantum effects or in between brain cells. It further describes human cognition by modeling the brain as a holographic storage network. So all of your memory is not coming from your brain. There is some kind of a holographic structure. So you are accessing this information from the universe. How and why, nobody knows. So the Vedic scientists call this, that intuition is coming from God himself, right? They said that you don't need to know everything. This intuition comes from somewhere outside. It could even come from outside of this universe, but largely it comes from within the universe, right? Because universe is a self-contained whole. So while each cell and each organ have specific quantum state, the whole body also has a quantum state. The quantum state of individual living cell is the mathematical expression of superimposed mixed cells, states of the cell, the organ and the whole body to form an implicate order that informs each single cell of its structure and function. So each cell of your body is being informed by somebody else from outside to function in a certain way, right? So therefore, if you just give ibuprofen to suppress your pain, that's not going to be sufficient, right? And when ibuprofen wears off, your body pain returns. So there has to be holistic treatment for the body, right? So then the nature of the psyche. Generally, it has been well accepted by traditional neuroscience that psyche is generated in the brain. Functional neuroimaging is employed. I mean, he's a cardiologist, so he knows all these techniques. Neuroimaging is employed to study neuroanatomical correlates of various cognitive processes that constitute the mind. Evidence from brain indicates that all the mind's processes have physical correlates. Correlation means if X, then Y. That is a correlation in the brain function. So all mind's processes have some kind of thing happening actually. And then there is this other theory which says that there's a long-term memory similarly distributed in some kind of a magnetic field over the dendritic circuit. So our brain has about 2 trillion neurons and they are all joined through dendrites. So those dendrites form a circuit. So that's called a dendritic circuit. So this model allows for important aspects of human consciousness, including fast associative memory, right? Human being can think much faster than the fastest computer in the world because we associate things. For example, if you put into Google a search, it is still thinking. It will take a fraction of a second, but you can do faster than that. Why? Because when you were 7 years old, you are walking along the road in Hyderabad or Chennai and something happened. Boom, that thing will just come like that, right? Faster than any computer because computer has to go through sequential searches. Whereas this one is associative. Means it will associate something which a computer has yet to, perform at that level. And again, this whole artificial neural networks, deep learning, that is doing it a very different thing. It is just training an algorithm to learn. And if it finds a similar sample pattern, it will give you the answer. If it doesn't, like the other day, I was watching a video on YouTube or one of these tubes. So the person was showing his 2 fingers in front of the camera, which was fed to a deep learning network. And it said that you are a rabbit with 2 ears. So the deep learning algorithm got confused because it saw things like this, 2 fingers. So it thought these are the 2 ears of the rabbit, right? Because it doesn't have associative memory. It is just learning, the pixels that surround these 2 fingers. And then it studies the pixels surrounding the 2 ears of the hare or a rabbit. So this fast associative memory, now where is it coming from, right? So then they did a lot of things and did magnetic energy studies around the human being. They called the SQUIDs, superconducting quantum interference device. A little bit of mumbo jumbo there just to publish their paper. But essentially they said that soul has different kinds of activities, right? Intellectual soul, sensitive soul, vegetative soul. So really the human soul, the whole psyche, ego, and the rational mind come from the soul. They don't come from the brain actually. Ultimately, everything has to come from the soul. Brain is just like your random access memory, right? It just processes data, but the data is there in the soul. And after you process something, then it gets written back to the soul, right? And that's why life after life, we carry samskaras or vasanas. Samskaras means positive things, like, you should not hurt somebody, you should be gentle in your talk, you should not kill animals for food or hunting. Those are the positive samskaras. And then there are negative vasanas. Negative vasana means if a beautiful girl is walking, then I should lustily look at her, right? Or I should cheat my employer so that I can make more money. Those are all vasanas. So both of them are getting written back, right? So the data is coming, you're processing, and you're writing back. So soul carries these impressions from life to life. That's why no two people on the human and the planet are the same. So some people who have strong vasanas, like if they were a serial killer in their last life, they want to kill even in this life, right? They have that prepondering propensity to kill. So what do? You train them, that's all. You train them outside or you train them in a jail. If that fellow is like incurable, then you put them in a jail with a single cell, like isolated jail, and then just keep him there for the rest of his life. Because if he comes outside, he will again cause trouble. One of my colleagues actually preaches in the prison in somewhere between Dallas and Houston. There is a prison. So he drives from Dallas every week on a Saturday and he goes and preaches to the prisoners. So 2 of the prisoners are now coming and helping him on his farm. So they are supposedly rehabilitated. For how long, we don't know, but hopefully for the rest of their life. And they won't again fall back into that old pattern of crime, right? And he said that in the jails, they don't rehabilitate. If somebody misbehaves, they'll just give him an electric shock. That's it. So they are not teaching them how to control their emotions. Nothing is going on. There's no rehabilitation in the jail. Well, what can we do? I put together a video on my channel where we looked at a jail in India and a jail here in Miami, and basically singing the Hare Krishna mantra and how it impacts their behavior or not, right? So that's the ongoing research, how mantra will control their bad emotions and qualities like that. So here is talking about, what motivates this soul, right? So there are different characteristics like libido that drives the impulses, hunger, thirst, sex, aggression. Actually, each one of us have these various chakras, right? So let me show the chakras. So at the bottom is root chakra, Muladhara chakra. Then comes the Swadhisthana chakra, which is responsible for sensuality, pleasure, like that. Then comes Manipuraka chakra, power and ability to channel your energies. Heart chakra, that is Anahata chakra. Then Vishuddha chakra. Then Agnya chakra, which is the third eye. Of course, Shiva has the third eye. Our third eye is covered. And then Sahasrara chakra. So when we die, the soul, which is in the heart region, gets pumped up through the Anahata, through Vishuddha, through Agnya, and through Sahasrara. Yogis, what they do, they crack open their skull through meditative power, and the soul leaves the head like that. And whereas devotees, the Hare Krishna devotees, and this is based on experience of so many people who passed away, they live through the mouth. So they'll be chanting Hare Krishna, and the soul goes through the mouth like that. So these are all very established sciences. I mean, all these things I took from American web pages only. It's not like I'm creating anything from scratch, right? So all this information is there. How we apply that to our life is very important. So we have various levels of consciousness, right? So there is subconscious, last life's memories, pre-conscious, conscious. We need to go to super conscious state. And when you chant the Hare Krishna mantra, it is one way to raise your energy to the super conscious things. You can even chant Om, but it's very difficult to chant Om for a long period of time. But when you chant the Hare Krishna mantra, It's got a rhythm to it. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I don't know what it is, but it's got a pattern. This pattern adjusts things in our brain cells and our body cells. Something happens to you when you chant mantras, right? Is a topic of research. There is one Consciousness Institute in Los Angeles. They are doing research. There is one in California, Berkeley. They are doing research. They don't know what it is, but it will change. Mantrayata iti mantra. That's what sadhus said. Mantrayata means something that disciplines the mind is called mantra, right? So how it happens, we don't know, but it happens, right? I mean, all the scientists are trying to figure out. The Hare Krishnas are trying to figure out. The Om Vadis are trying to figure out. People who just chant Om. The yogis are trying to figure out. Like once I was talking to a Western lady. I said, this is the mantra, please chant, it is good for you. She said, I know this. I said, how do you know? She said, my yoga teacher taught me. So even the yoga schools in America are trying to teach this, somehow or the other, even without fully understanding how it works. So when you chant the Hare Krishna mantra, something magical happens. And we don't know that, why it happens or how it happens. But proof of the pudding is in the eating, right? So it does happen, right? So that's the, yeah. And then this scientist talks about the purpose of life. The model connects us with the wisdom of ancient spiritual cultures and sheds light on the real essence of humankind and the purpose of life. The human soul is the real essence of human being. It's not our hands, not our legs, not our house, not our swimming pool, not our, 100K Tesla car. But the human soul is the real essence of the human being who come to explore new horizons so that they learn, grow, and evolve. During people's life in the physical world, they constantly enrich their soul with thoughts, desires, and emotions. Now, he talks about psychology, right? Because he's a psychiatrist. Psychological conflicts and traumas spring from unfulfilled desires, which, when not well processed, create energy blockages in the chakras and meridians of the soul. He keeps talking about animal soul. He thinks human being is also an animal, but actually we are higher than animals, right? Because we can reason. Animals, they only operate on the food platform, and we'll come to that too. When low vital energy is present, these blockages become physical disease, right? With time. Like even my, thyroid doctor at Virginia Mason Hospital in Seattle, Venkatesh and Raj both came for my surgery at Virginia Mason. Right? Even he kind of tries out all these alternative ways to unblock these, bad energies. So psychological and physical disturbances are signs of non-acceptance and ignorance of life's purpose. So when we ignore life's real purpose, everything else breaks, all hell breaks loose in our lives. So that's why I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to teach whatever little I know to other people, right? So when we ignore the real life purpose, what is the real life purpose? That is the topic of Bhagavad Gita. Because this gentleman is talking about the why, right? Why we need to take to spirituality. The how, these people are not educated. They're educated in modern medicine and psychology and psychiatry. So what he did, he injected some kind of indigo glue or something, not glue, what is it called? Dye in the bloodstream near the brain. And he ran some experiments. So he got one color here, the second color here, and the third color here. So again, I fully don't understand because I'm not a medical doctor, but he did something to the brain, 3 different kinds of exercises. And actually, I post this on my YouTube as well, neurological basis for prayer. And I sent it to some people who are on this line as well. So that doctor injected some kind of dye and asked people to chant. Somebody chanted Hare Krishna, somebody chanted Om, somebody chanted Hallelujah, and somebody was connecting to God in his own meditative way, some Methodist minister, and he found these dyes, going to different parts of the brain. And then he said that the frontal lobe is activated when you pray, right? So finally he concludes, the soul is the unifying and integrating essence that creates an indivisible whole between body, psyche, and spirit, which are intertwined. So the soul is described by employing concepts of quantum physics. The spirit is informational potential. When animate, so you see, it is not your brain that is information potential. It is your soul that is information. Brain is just like random access memory. It is just there processing in and out, in and out. Should I do this or should I not do that? In Sanskrit, that is called sankalpa, vikalpa. Sankalpa means I want to do this. They say, right, before pujari, you do puja, any kind of puja. Okay, sankalpam cheddam. Then he will recite some mantras. Om Keshvaya Namaha, Madhuraya Namaha, Keshvaya Namaha, like that. And Dhanama Pradyumna Namaha. So he's asking you to do a sankalpa, means to take a vow of doing something. Vikalpa means you don't want to do it. Oh, I don't want to go to, South Africa because I don't like that environment. Right? So human mind is only duality. That's it. Plus, minus, plus, minus. The real information is coming from the soul. The soul is energy and information with different frequencies that afford the distinctive part of soul diverse attributes and distinct characteristics. Right? So what is his conclusion? That information is not coming from mind. It is coming from soul. And soul is connected to this whole universe somehow. We don't know how yet. Right? So when you chant the Hare Krishna mantra, you will unlock that potential. So that's why I'm chanting Hare Krishna, because unless there is result, I won't do anything in life. Right? So I'm finding result, therefore I'm chanting. So that is why, of course, Krishna says all this in 12 verses in the Bhagavad Gita, and he quickly moves on because Arjuna was a very smart guy. You don't need a PhD to analyze and dissect and all this stuff, right? But because we are not that smart, it takes us long time to understand those 12 verses that Lord Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita about what the soul is. Nayanam chindanti shastrani, nayanam dahati pavakaha, na kledayanti yapo, na sochati maruta, right? So you cannot cut a soul, you cannot divide a soul. Soul cannot be burnt, soul cannot be withered. For example, if somebody is doing fishing in Lake Sammamish, suddenly his boat collapses and he sinks to the bottom of Lake Sammamish, which is about, 5 miles from my home. So what do you think happens to that soul? Say something. What do you think happens to that soul? Chandar.
Not sure, Prabhuji. It will be settled if it's satisfied when leaving the body, or I don't know.
Yeah. So does it have the satisfaction? Yeah, but what about all the karma that the soul has done in that body? Now you have to pay for it, pay for your deeds, good, bad, ugly, whatever case might be, right? So,
Right.
but the immediate question I asked was, does the soul get wet because it's in water? No, right? I said, Nayanam chindanti shastrani, you cannot cut the soul, you cannot dry the soul, you cannot wet the soul. You cannot do anything to the soul. The soul simply goes on to the next body. After going to hell for a little while, for paying the debt, because we all have done so much nonsense in our life. So we will go do a little bit of paying the debts and then we go on to the next body. But Krishna's topic of soul is only in 2nd chapter. Why? Because later he teaches how not to come back, right? How not to take birth again. So when we do our birthday parties in our temple, we sing the song, may you never take birth again, may you never take birth again, may you never take birth again, Hare Krishna to you. So we don't say happy birthday to you. because birth is not happy. We say, Hare Krishna to you, Hare Krishna to you, Hare Krishna, dear X, Y, and Z, Hare Krishna to you. Because birth is never happy actually. What is so happy about a birthday? Birth is when you left your Supreme Father Krishna and came to the material world. So we should quickly wrap up our business here and go back. So that's why we say, may you never take birth again. May you never take birth again. May you never take birth again. Hare Krishna to you. That's the song. And one time, one of my friend, he went to some, non-devotee's home, and he sang the same song. And the girl said, "How rude! I want to take birth again." So there are people like that, ignorance, right? People want to take, we have taken birth millions of times already, and we want to take birth again and again and again. How many times? You have to put an end to this birth business. Because what happens after birth? What happens after birth?
Life happens.
Yeah, no, but what are the major milestones of life? After birth comes old age, disease, and death. And after death comes again birth. So that's what Shankaracharya says. Punarapi maranam, punarapi jananam, punarapi janani, jatare shayanam. So when you look at from the Devata perspective, all we are doing is taking birth and dying. That's it. They don't care whether you work in Microsoft or Amazon or Google. They're saying, "Arey, the poor soul has taken birth." And after some time, "Arey, the poor soul is suffering with old age. Arey, the poor soul has all these diseases, kidneys not functioning, liver not functioning. Arey, the poor soul is now leaving the body. Arey, now the poor soul is re-entering a separate body, another mother's womb." Right? So it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, when the soul is in the mother's womb, it says, "Oh mother, please deliver me. I promise you, oh Lord, I'll promise you that I will never take birth again. I will serve you and I'll come back home." But what happens once the child takes birth? The child is pampered so much that the child forgets everything. And then he says, "Okay, this world is not so bad after all." And continues its life, only to again grow old, get disease, and die. There are four things. That's why Shastra says, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam. Krishna says in the 13th chapter. Janma, Mrityu, birth, death. Jara, old age, and Vyadi, disease. We all have this, right? We all have back pain, this pain, that pain. And then we are all going to die. Nobody is going to live 100% on this planet. Some people may die at 90. Like, Lal Krishna Advani, BJP party. I was just reading a news item today. He's 95 years old. He's still alive, believe it or not. LK Advani was a politician when I was young, 5 years old, and he's still a politician, 95 years. But eventually everybody has to die, some early, some late. And then one of my relative, my Vadina's sister's husband, he passed away due to corona at the age of 50. So some 50, they are dead. Some 95, they are still alive. So what are you going to do? Death is guaranteed. You can avoid taxes, but not death. So we have to get out of this cycle of birth, death, and old age and disease. So that is what scripture is teaching us. Scripture's purpose is not, of course, in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, verse 10, Krishna says, "In the beginning of time, I sent forth generations of men and devatas to the material world so that they can live happily in this lifetime, and at end of life, come back to me." So he sent us so that we can come back to him, not to perform karma and hang around here. You see the difference? But what we are doing, we are just hanging around here. Right? So that is, it takes a whole lifetime to understand what's going on here. Right? It's not like a one-shot thing that today the class is done and all of us become self-realized. No, it takes a whole lifetime to understand and comprehend this, whatever is happening. So any thoughts? Sorry to cut you off, Raj.
No, that was fine, Baba.
I think, Ramesh, there are a lot of things that have to be done in one's life. Right? It's everything from Gita or all these Upanishads are a great starting point. But it's not enough. If you look at what we eat, how we think, every second, every minute, every thought, has a price to be paid. And we can only do so much, but at least people who are blessed, or at least have an opportunity to listen to Gita or listen to any of this, are doing a small part towards the journey.
Yeah, it is not, yeah, it is a lot of work. We have to start somewhere, though. We have to start somewhere. Otherwise, what will happen?
So if you think about it, or at least my understanding, limited understanding, people who have been with Krishna probably have come to earth to help others, or at least point them in the right direction, to guide them. It is hopefully possible that people who are with Krishna also have come here.
That is true. That is what is said about Swami Prabhupada. It is said that he was in the spiritual world. He came down to give this knowledge because it was impossible for any human being to, he wrote over 100 books. In a span of 10 years, he built over 108 temples. Now there are 700 temples worldwide for ISKCON. So how he did it in one lifetime, no human being could do. Like he would sleep at 12 o'clock and wake up at midnight and start translating books from Sanskrit to English. He would only sleep 2 hours every day. So there are people like that who are, who are able to do this thing. But not everybody can do it. That's also correct.
Yeah, and another way to think about it is, okay, we were all with Krishna at one point. So why did we come here to begin with?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. Let's open it up for discussion. So why did we come here? Maybe Chandar, you can start.
To go through the material world.
Okay, that's one thought. Raj, what do you think?
Yeah, I think what they call karma, whatever sent for a purpose to.
Right, Raj. What I was, my point is, the karma. If you go back to the origin or the beginning, we were with Krishna. Okay, so that is, before karma, we were part of Krishna, with Krishna. So why did we come here?
Right, that is a good point. We don't have karma in the spiritual world. So why did we come here? Okay, so maybe Vijay, any thoughts on that one?
Maybe based on previous deeds that we did,
No, but when we're in the spiritual world, there are no previous deeds. We are already in the starting point. So what my Anaya is saying is, why did we even come? Starting point before even karma. Karma is only done in this material world. So what happened even before we came to the material world? Right? So
Right.
he has a thought.
Yes.
Huh?
We experience the material world.
Yes, that is you're coming close, but that's not the full answer. You're coming close, definitely. Anybody has any other thoughts? Any other thoughts? I was searching for something, but I couldn't find it. Anyway, Chandar, any other thoughts why we decided to leave a comfortable situation in the spiritual world and come here?
No, Prabhuji, I didn't get. But one thing I remember, in one of the class, we were speaking about, Lord Indran came also to the material world, and then, he has to go back, right? For after some time, to experience the materialistic nature.
You mean which Lord came down?
Yeah, I didn't remember. Is it Lord Indran?
Yeah, Indra comes down. What
Indra
happens
comes
is
down.
Indra is cursed by his guru to become a pig. So he comes down and he becomes a pig. He has a pig wife and pig kids. And later on, Narada Muni comes and says, "You are the king of heaven. What are you doing here, rolling in mud? Come, let's go." He says, "I am so happy here. I don't need to go anywhere. I have a wife and kids, and there is so much mud here." He says, "You are an idiot. You are the king of heaven." So he doesn't listen. So what happens? Narada calls all the people around and says, "Beat this pig. It's a bad pig." So they beat the pig to death. And then Indra leaves the body and he goes back and regains his position as king of heaven. Yeah. But that is after he left the spiritual world and he came to the material world, because even um, Swarga is what? Even Swarga is in the material world, right? You get the point? So even before we came to Swarga, because we were all in Swarga, heaven at some point, but we screwed up, we made some mistakes, and now we are in the earth. Earth is material, Swarga is also material. But I'm talking about spiritual world, which is above all of this. So think about it, you will get an answer.
It may be that we wanted to experience Lord
Yeah,
in a
the same
different
same
form.
answer that the same answer that Raj gave, but I'm trying to zero in. But why? Why do we want to experience something different when we
So
have?
it has to be, if we were with Krishna at one point,
Uh-huh.
and if we came here, it has to be to experience Krishna in a different way. Like, it should be an opportunity to pray to Krishna in a human form.
Okay.
Again, that is, it is not for suffering, because we were part of Krishna, and we were in Goloka. So there's a reason why we ended up here. And the only thing I can think of is, again, to have the opportunity to connect with Krishna being in a human form, which also some devatas or some some folks, whether they are devatas or whether they are in Swargaloka, they want this experience, they desire this experience. So maybe we have desired this.
Yes, that's the key point. That's the key point. What did we desire? You're almost there near the answer. So what did we desire? Actually, I'm surprised. We came to the conclusion very quickly. In some of my other classes, people will beat around the bush, but we have come to the answer very quickly. Okay, so what did we desire? Desire to be dash, dash, dash. We decide to be independent of Krishna. Just like sometimes your kid will say, right, I don't want to study in this city. Let me pick a city, right? Okay, Dallas. I don't want to study in Dallas. Dallas is very boring. I want to go to Silicon Valley and study in Stanford University. Then you'll say, Arey Baba, Stanford University yearly fees is $55,000. Very expensive. Bachelor's degree will cost $250,000. I cannot afford. But the kid will insist. Then you will do, if you have 2 homes, you'll sell 1 home. You will take some loan. Then somehow or the other, you'll send your son to Stanford. And after Stanford, you'll say, Arey, why don't you come back to Dallas? There are nice companies here, JP Morgan, Chase, AT&T. He'll say, no, I want to work in Google. And he never comes back to Dallas ever again in his life. So the soul is wanting to be independent of God. That's how we decide. Why? I don't know. Because I also decide. That's why I'm here. We decide to be independent of Krishna. That's a fact. Because just like your son is no longer in Dallas, he is now in Stanford University. After Stanford University, went to Google, and after that in Dublin, California, I bought a home, and it's been 25 years, and you're asking him to come back to Dallas. But he says, no, I am very happy in California. So your son desired to be independent of you. Same thing. As souls, we desire to be independent of Krishna. And if you look at Swami Prabhupada's, purports, like in Bible also there is saying, right? There is the saying of prodigal son. Have you heard this prodigal son story in Bible? Where a son goes away and father wants him back. Similar concept, very similar concept. Right? So here in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 3:10, when we wanted to be independent of him, the Lord says, in the beginning of creation, I sent forth generation of men and devatas, demigods, because not even in the spiritual world, not everybody is the same, right? There's a hierarchy. This whole thing, Ambedkar saying that everybody is same, is foolishness. You have different intellectual capacity, you have different physical capacity. Like I cannot lift 150 pounds weights. I could probably lift 30, 40 pound weights. That's it. Right? But there could be an Olympic guy who can lift 150 pounds easily. So he says, in the beginning of creation, I sent forth generations of demigods and men to earth to perform sacrifice so that they may live happily in this lifetime. And at end of life, they may come back to me. Right? So he wants us to come back. But we don't want to go back. Just like the example of a son from Dallas who went to Silicon Valley and he never wants to go back home again to Dallas for whatever reason. So that's it. We wanted to be independent of Krishna. So I'll show you in chapter 3, verse 10, the secret is given. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods. With what? He didn't send without, just like if your son leave Dallas, you'll give him a cell phone, you'll give him at least a Toyota Camry or a Honda Accord so that he will not struggle in Silicon Valley, like that. Along with sacrifices for Vishnu. So the Lord gave us these tools and techniques to come back to him, sacrifice, yajna. So that's why we have to always perform yajna. Since we cannot perform yajna in Kali Yuga, we have to perform the Sankirtan yajna, which is chanting of the holy names. Nama. Nama means is the same as Lord. And he blessed them by saying, be thou happy by this yajna sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation at end of life. Simple program, huh? While you are here, you perform sacrifice, so that, because if you don't perform sacrifice, you'll not be wealthy. You all perform sacrifices in some life. That is why you're all in the top 10% in American economy. If you work in IT, you are in top 10%. That's a given. Because most people, like, the farm that I bought in Wolf City in Texas, I checked out the annual salary. Can you guess how much it is? Can anybody take a guess? especially the Dallas Vasis?
30,000.
Yeah, $30,000. And people are living in 30,000 also. I will consider myself to be a pauper if I get $30,000 a year, right? I would probably go back to India. But people are living in this country, people now born in this country, sons of the land. Yeah. So we are already in a very good situation, which means we have done something very pious in our past lives. Otherwise, we will not be here. But now, if we just like that son who is now happy with a 4-bedroom home in Dublin, California, he'll never come back to Dallas. That's his foolishness. His father has a $6 million bungalow. Why would you not go back? You may have experienced life, gone to California, but at some point you have to come back home. Your father has a big business in Dallas. Same thing. Our father, Krishna, is very wealthy. And we are struggling for small things in this planet Earth. Krishna is very wealthy. Right? So it is like going to a diamond shop and asking, "Hey, sir, do you have any dollar store item here?" Would it make any sense? Right? It won't, right? Similarly, when our eternal Father is so wealthy, why should we waste our time in this material world for small things? And here we struggle, right? We struggle for everything. Array, you want to buy $1 million home, you can only afford 400,000. You want X and you get Y. Nothing that you want in life will happen. That is a given in this material world, right? And everything is a struggle. So while living, while performing sacrifices, while doing our daily duties, our goal should be towards the prize, and the prize is liberation. You have to get out of the cycle of birth and death. Everything is there in Bhagavad Gita. I've studied it many times, and I've been studying through my teachers in ISKCON for 17 years now. So many people have taught me so many things. So while I'm working, just like you all, goal is what? Liberation. Everything else is secondary. All this is time pass. You have to do some way, you need some exercise to spend time, right? That's what we are doing. But our goal is not to take birth again. Our goal is to get out of this cycle. Because that is Krishna's clearly saying. You should be happy, you should not be miserable. When you do sacrifice, it will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily. Like some religions say that, no, you should not be happy. You should be miserable. Like the yogi path, right? Give up everything, go to Himalayas. But Krishna never said that. Look at this. He said, live happily. But your eyes should be on the prize. See, in Olympic sprint, gold, silver, and bronze, there'll be 1/100th of a second difference between the 3 medals. And the 4th guy will also miss the bronze by 1/100th of a second. Right? They will fire the pistol in the air. If you start before they fire the pistol, you are disqualified. If you start 1/100th of a second after the pistol is fired, you will lose. So that is the kind of situation we are in. So you have to be super precise in your dealings with God in this lifetime. Chanting names, learning Bhagavad Gita, following austerities. Like this month is called Purushottam Masa. So many people are fasting, including me. So I don't eat grain, no rice, no chapati, only Ekadashi Prasadam this entire month. Because austerities will make the soul purified. Right now the soul is covered with dust. Right? If your body is covered with dust, you'll go to Costco, buy some Dove soap, you clean your body. But if your soul is dusty, how will you clear it? So that is called Cheto Darpana Marjanam, Bhavadavagni Nirvapanam, Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam, Vidyavadu Jivanam. Means Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Our heart is like a soul, our soul or heart is like a mirror. So if mirror is dusty, what do? How do you clean it? You take a cloth, wipe it, wet it a little bit, and you wipe the mirror. Similarly, if our soul is dirty, we have to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. There are different mantras. Om, Allahu is also a mantra actually. The Sufis chant that. Then, O Father, Thy in heaven, hallowed be Thy name. That is the what Christians chant. Of course, nowadays I talk to one Christian, the fellow doesn't even know that this mantra exists. So modern Christians are all nonsense, right? Nonsense is what? They've forgotten their own heritage. So, but if you really read the Bible, which I have done, you will come to know that there is a lot of good things there also. But nobody knows them, modern life. That's why Swami Prabhupada came and is reinstituting this dharma. What is dharma? Dharma is the natural characteristic or quality of a soul. It is there, it is hidden in us, but it is covered with dust. So when you chant this Hare Krishna mantra, Cheto Darpan, Darpan in Hindi means mirror. So ये जो मन का दर्पण है उसको साफ करना है अपने को. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. So once you clear it, then you will realize it's called self-realization. First you have to realize who you are by chanting Hare Krishna mantra. Then comes God realization. God is not so cheap. First self-realization, then leads to God realization. And after that, it is autopilot. You just keep doing your devotional activities, chanting, feasting. We eat better than the average guy. Every day, we have different kinds of prasadam, both at home and from the temple. Yeah, so it's not like we are starving or anything when we are doing devotional life. So it's like that. So when we do this, then at some point, the doors of spiritual world will open. There is a difference between heaven and spiritual world. Heaven comes if you do a lot of charity, dana. If you give a lot of charity, the doors of heaven will open. You'll go there, you'll enjoy for some time, and then you'll be kicked out. Bhagavad Gita says, Shine punya martya lokam vishanti. After your punya is finished, you'll be kicked out. Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita. Martya lokam means our world is called Martya lokam. If you want to learn all these concepts, you should see 1960, 1970 movies. S.V. Rangarao movies are there, where he will take the role of Ravana, or he will take the role of Ghatotkacha. All these concepts are there. But, they are conveyed in a very fast manner, right? Most people will miss it. Nobody is taking the pain to describe them to you in great detail, right? And that's what I'm trying to do here. Using scriptures, I'm trying to describe what the process is, right? So if you see one of the S.V. Rangarao movie, he describes Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Tala, Atala, Rasa, Atala, Mahatala, Patala, Lokala, Lo, Unna Jivarasalandariki, like if you see these videos in YouTube. So what are these lokas? These are all subterranean hellish planets. So when you perform bad, too much sin, you may go to Atala or Vitala or Sutala or Talatala or Rasatala, Mahatala or Patala. But then if you do pious activities, like even Raj knows this mantra, Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Satsaverin Vargo Devasya Dhimahi Ye Yona Prachodayat. So there is Bhur, which is our loka, Bhur loka, Bhuvar loka, above us. Swar means Swarga loka, above that Tapaloka, Jana loka, Mahar loka, and finally Satya loka, where Lord Brahmaji lives. Right? So this information is there. It is just a matter of us assimilating, first of all, developing some faith. Shraddha, it's called Shraddha, little faith. Right? For example, if I go to internet and say Goloka chart, some person has already posted this chart. Right? So this is the more modern version, but I wanted the traditional version, which is older. Let me see, spiritual and material worlds, images. You can learn a lot in YouTube, actually. You can learn a lot. You see, this is our universe. In this universe, one universe is called Brahmanda. Anda means egg. This is Brahma's egg. So Brahmaji is sitting here. We are here. You're seeing my cursor? Above this, there Bhur, Bhuvar, Swaha, Tapa, Jana, Mahar, all the way to Satyalokas. And then this is the S.V. Rangarao dialogue. Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Tala, Atala, Rasa, Atala, Maha, Atala, Patala. all these Brahmandas are coming from Karnodakshay Vishnu's bodily pores. There are millions of such universe. That's why Lord Balaji or Venkateshwara is called Anantakota Brahmanda Nayaka. So there are unlimited crores of Brahmandas, and he is the Nayak. Nayak means boss, right? So then this Vishnu, Karnodakshay Vishnu, will enter into this Brahmanda and he becomes Garbhodakshay Vishnu. There is this Viraja river. Above the Viraja river is spiritual world. Before the Viraja river is material world. And this Brahma Jyoti comes from Krishna's effulgence, his light. And then this material energy or Maya, so we are in Maya Loka. This is just one corner of the universe, one corner of the creation. 3/4 are spiritual world, 1/4 is material world. Right? So a lot of people have done a lot of research on scriptures, put posters like this. Some people have put wrong posters also. But, I know to distinguish between the wrong poster and the right poster because of my training, right? I've been trained non-stop by at least 20 different sannyasis in ISKCON, non-stop, right? So that training is helping me to come to a point where I'm able to teach other people like that. Okay, that's a lot to digest in one session. Questions? Okay, so we will stop the recording and we will chant Hare Krishna now, if there are no questions. I know you are probably having a million thoughts in your mind because what you were taught in your school and college and by your relatives is very different than all this stuff because they didn't know better. Nobody has analyzed the scriptures as much as Swami Prabhupada has done, and he has presented this like a capsule, right? The knowledge that I'm giving is like 40 years worth of study if you go through all the Vedas. But what Swami Prabhupada did was he took all the key elements, just like before going to examination, your kids will go through something is known as Cliff Notes. Cliff Notes is there on internet. So they will just study the bare minimum so that they can pass the next day. Otherwise, if you start opening the textbook before the day of exam, you are already too late. You cannot study the whole book, right? So that's what's happening here. Are you seeing my screen or no?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we are seeing it.
Okay. So I wanted to shut off the recording, but for somehow I cannot see the recording control. There it is.